Hello, this is Emily Wright, Head of Content at CREtech, and this is a bit of a different one. I am joined by two people today for whom the phrase "need no introduction" was basically written for, but it is the done thing, so we will do some introductions. I'm joined, of course, by Aaron Block, co-founder and managing partner of Metaprop, and Michael Beckerman, CEO of CREtech. Thank you both so much for joining me today. Oh,
Emily.
and silence from them both. I've obviously stunned them into silence.
I was just being a gentleman, letting Aaron go first.
Honestly, you two, it's like, just letting each other go first. And anyway, the reason we're chatting today is it's as exciting as the reason why we've got you both here. And that is, of course, the fact that CREtech New York is going to be the anchor event for New York Real Estate Tech Week coming up in November of this year. So exciting. And before we move on to talk about that, I just want to thank you both, because you two are probably the two people, certainly stateside, who have been the most instrumental in my career. So thank you very much for that. And I've interviewed you both separately, and it's an absolute joy to interview you together. So apart from the fact that you do the opposite of finishing each other's sentences at the moment, in that neither of you start your sentences. But let's start off. I'll ask a question that should get things moving. Aaron, if there is anybody watching this left on the planet who doesn't know everything about New York Real Estate Tech Week, could you give a bit of an overview to sort of let people in on the action?
Yeah, so Michael is obviously a legend in the industry, and early days was one of the first people to bring anyone together through CREtech in an event-like format in New York City, which, for years and years and years has been the hotbed of the intersection of real estate and technology and the digitization of this space. And in the early years of CREtech, there was also a need to have additional gathering and bringing smart people together for conversation, networking, learning, enrichment, and deal making. And in 2016, New York City Real Estate Tech Week was put together with the help of Mike and many other very smart people from around the world to create a week of opportunity for folks, not just here in New York City, but from around the world, to come together and to meet and to give enough reason for folks outside of New York in particular to come and experience the best of what's happening in New York. And that's been happening for many years now. It's been very successful. And usually there are between 12 and 16 different events anchored by one event. And we're so excited that CREtech this year is the anchor event. The week goes November 11th through 14th this year. And CREtech is absolutely the shining star at the Javits Center. Can't wait to be there and bring everybody together, not just for CREtech, but for all of the programming and opportunities around it this year. This should be a really, really fun one. I must say that New York City Real Estate Tech Week has really done its job so far in cementing New York City's place as one of the centers, if not the center, of the global proptech ecosystem. We have thousands of people coming in. Metaprop holds, for example, its annual investor meeting that week, and investor dinners. There have been boat trips. There have been walking tours of New York City. There have been meetings with key officials and speaking events, poker tournaments, you name it, it happens during this week. This is a really exciting time, and we look forward to seeing everybody November 11th through 14th for the week, and in particular for CREtech.
Emily, if I could just jump in, I cannot let that compliment go unreturned, if you will. So for me, Aaron, I believe was, if not the first person I met, one of the first people I met on my own journey with CREtech and in this prop tech ecosystem. And I remember the time we spent fondly, and he had big ideas and for Metaprop and the ecosystem, but at that time, it was 2014 or 15, sometime around there. This was just a vision he had, right? And I was just, a fan and wanted to play in this giant sandbox that he and Zach were going to create at Metaprop. And, fast forward, few firms have had the impact of that Aaron and his colleagues have had at Metaprop at making prop tech a recognized global ecosystem that, every venture firm, every real estate company, startup community, the press, the media. I mean, a lot of the credit does go to Aaron and his colleagues. And so for me, when the dates finally aligned after all these years where, we just couldn't get the dates together, was really the only reason why we didn't come together and align during Real Estate Tech Week. This was the week where, we started talking earlier. It was like November. Yeah, November. I think we can do it. We made it happen. And I couldn't be more thrilled personally and for the team but really for the entire industry to come to New York for that week, to see what Metaprop has been able to create in this week-long event. And, you think about, and, if you follow other sort of tech events throughout this country and in London as well, where there's tech weeks, I would argue that New York Tech Week is among the most vibrant, largest, most important weeks of innovation in the world. And I give a lot of credit to Aaron and the team. And we're just really, really excited to be collaborating with them and to be part of that week. So it's just a really great thrill, and it's come full circle for me personally.
Well, I'd love to talk in a bit about New York specifically, particularly coming from the European perspective. But before I do that, for people who know New York Real Estate Tech Week or maybe don't, and people who know CREtech, I'd love to hear from you both about. I mean, you've both sort of gone there a bit in your previous answers, but really specifically want to know, what is it going to be like kind of, the super event when you bring those two together? The stars have aligned, the weeks have lined up. It's going to go ahead. It's going to work. What is the elevation factor that you're expecting from bringing these two things and amalgamating them? Aaron, let's find out from you first.
Well, I think CREtech is known to be the single most important event in proptech, climate tech, and the intersection of what I like to consider the big three, which is the digitization of real estate, the decarbonization of real estate, and this big push around AI and its impact on the built environment. And so, to do a real estate tech week without CREtech, honestly, is criminal at this stage. And so I don't want to get arrested. There's enough of that happening in the United States right now. I'm sure everybody wants.
Well, there's the headline. Aaron Block, I don't want to get arrested.
I don't want to get arrested. So, you kind of have to, right? It's almost like you're being pulled into this. So, I mean, listen, people were going to come in for CREtech. People are going to come in for Real Estate Tech Week. The idea that you will have visiting delegations from Europe, in particular, LATAM, Asia, coming in with groups of executives from the real estate industry, from the venture industry, and from the startup community, who can actually get a lot done at one time and have an anchor point around which they can order opportunities for connections, make meetings with sources of capital, see the best of what's happening from a property and development real estate perspective, and make new pilot test scale up opportunities for the startups. I mean, this is what the whole thing is all about. And if you don't have that major anchor point for a week like this, you really miss out, right? People want to come and have a good time. People want to do a tour, but what people really want to do is be in the room with the people that matter. And CREtech at the Javits Center is the room with the people that matter.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Michael.
Emily, I would just add to that. I think for us, and I know it's what you and I have talked about a lot. I think it's also really, really about New York as sort of the epicenter for real estate, for sure. I mean, there's probably the biggest real estate market in the world. Increasingly is that one of the core tech markets in the world, if not the fastest growing tech community sector in the US, for venture and investment and private equity and climate. I mean, it's all happening in New York. It's why we've always had our anchor event in New York City. And so I think what Aaron and his team have done is really make this a celebration of New York City. And that's where obviously they're based and headquartered. And a lot of their LPs are there as well. A lot of their portfolio companies. They're not exclusively because they're global, but for me, it's just about also celebrating the greatest city in the world. I'm biased, but it's about New York City.
Oh, you're talking to a Londoner. Woo, brave.
As I know, and we have our other event obviously in London. I love London. I love London. Don't get
horrifying statement. No, fair enough. But while we're on this subject, it'd be really interesting to delve into all this a bit more, because from the European UK perspective, we're looking at New York and the US, and absolutely no question, a huge market. But like all global markets, a market that's had its fair share of challenges. And I think there are things, be interesting to get your perspective on how the New York market is coming back post-pandemic, but also what's really interesting is the sustainability side of things, because for a long time, I think it would be fair to say, and I know I've got to tread carefully here. I think it'd be fair to say that the European market has been sort of pretty forward thinking in terms of sustainability. But now it seems like New York really is one of the big hubs for this. And it's interesting from the UK and European perspective to see that emerging in the city. So is anything that I've just said so untrue that it borders on the offensive, or is that about accurate?
Listen, Emily, I can speak from my own experiences. Europe, the UK included, and Asia in particular, those regions have been light years ahead from a climate perspective and decarbonization perspective when you look at the real estate industry. And the capital for the real estate industry demanding it, and the employees within the real estate industry. Everybody's getting sandwiched in the real estate and property industry, right? The money says you have to do this, and the people, the users and the employees say you have to do this, which puts a lot of pressure on and has really catapulted Europe and Asia to a really forward-thinking place, and that's been great. New York City's role in this is one of the homes of capital globally, as Michael pointed out, the largest real estate market in the world. And thanks to some progressive legislation and some really forward-thinking thought leaders in the space, it is one of the emerging places of decarbonization and sustainability thought in the United States. Of course, what's going on the West Coast in California with legislation, what you're seeing in Denver, there are other pockets of it, but no place comes together with the property industry, the capital, and the innovation ecosystem. This is the number 2 tech market in the world. To make this all happen. New York is a special place, particularly when it comes to sustainability and decarbonization in the property business.
Yeah, Emily, I would just add to what Aaron said. I mean, you're such a respected thought leader in our industry, and CREtech is so blessed to have you heading all of our content. I mean, you're on the front lines of talking to all these real estate CEOs through the programming that you're doing at the London show and the New York show. And it's what we talk about all the time, and I listen to all your interviews that you do on stage, or the videos and webinars that you do, and the CEOs of all the largest European real estate companies. This, talking about sustainability is core to their platform, their vision, their plans for the future. In the US, we're still lagging in that regard. I think we'll catch up, but you see it. I mean, you're a testament to what is it people are talking about in Europe? Sustainability, right? I mean,
yeah, sustainability, but they're not just talking. That's the thing.
Exactly.
They are acting, and I think that is something which is, I'm sure that's also happening in New York and your other pockets over in the US. But they are acting in a way over here in UK and Europe, particularly the UK where I'm based, in a way that I've never seen before. And I think it is a drive through partially through necessity, as is often the case, but it's also a drive for actually wanting to do something differently. And I think people will see, we're not here to talk about London, but people will see at CREtech London, and of course in CREtech New York, but at CREtech London, that there are big real estate companies and developers taking big risks and actually doing things, buying up solar farms in Glasgow to power their portfolios, we weren't seeing this, a year ago, and we're only just seeing it now, but there is an awful lot of innovative thought around this subject, huge amounts of innovative thought, and it's very reassuring and very hopeful. So,
yeah, and I think that's absolutely right. And I would think, just to echo something Aaron said earlier about, Real Estate Tech Week being a week of global innovation and networking. And I think, for us at CREtech at the New York show, we're definitely going to have a lot of sort of global perspectives. And I know Aaron will as well, because they've got a global portfolio and an LP network. So while we're both such, fanboys of New York City, it really is a place for the entire world to come together in New York. But we're
best city in the world.
We're gonna absolutely draw inspiration from other countries. Aaron said Latam, I think APAC, where they have got a big presence. Like it's really a global week of innovation, right, Aaron? Wouldn't you agree? Like that's a big cornerstone.
Sure, for sure. And I think one of our jobs, and Michael, you've always been really great at this, and I think we've tried to do a good job as well, is be ambassadors for New York and be connectors, right? So come join the event, get your ticket to CREtech for sure. Sign up for other opportunities around it and make the most of your time here. But pick up the phone or send an email, reach out to Michael, reach out to Emily. I assume you would do it as well. Certainly reach out to me and the Metaprop team. Let us help make those connections for you. Let us host you and your delegation that's coming in with 15 or 20 real estate executives from Chile or from Germany. I mean, we do this all the time. We want to make your visit here easier. We want to make the connections and the learnings and the opportunities as robust as possible. So reach out. Don't be afraid. Make the most of this opportunity. It only comes around once a year, and this is going to be the biggest and the best ever.
Better than Christmas, it sounds like to me. Well.
It is Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, all wrapped together for the PropTech industry.
I mean, that would be a perfect place to end. And we are going to wrap up soon, but I'm going to put you both on the spot in a way that you weren't anticipating, but you're both pros, so you can totally handle it. And I'm just going to ask you two quick fire questions to finish up with. And one of them is like, what is the thing that is exciting you most in this market right now? And the other one is the place where you would go in a heartbeat in New York City if you had one choice. Like you've got one place to go, that's your choice, you got to stick with it. Who's going to, I mean, there was a silence at the beginning, and I'm guessing there might be a silence now at the end. Who's going to go first on that?
Aaron.
You got me. Okay. So there's one thing I love about New York City over and above other aspects, and that's the fact that you have this gargantuan city with everything in the world you could think of. You have theater, you have finance, you have fashion, you have buildings, I mean property, you have tech, you have all of this wonderful stuff, but you also have the water. And that's an underappreciated resource here locally. And I think, I'm going to tie this back to CREtech and to Real Estate Tech Week. The Javits Center is on the water. It's on the Hudson River at the mouth to the Atlantic Ocean of this incredibly historic river. And there are two great opportunities that I really love, and I would encourage everybody to pay attention to. One is there's a what we like to call locally here the Lobster Boat, which is just a couple blocks north of the Javits Center, walking distance, where the boat will actually feed you alcohol, soft drinks, lobster rolls, and baskets of fish and seafood, and it will go out on tour in the Hudson River for free during your snacks and eating several times throughout the day in good weather like we're having here today. It's a wonderfully secret, only in New York City kind of insider knowledge place, and it's walking distance from CREtech. The other one, and I don't like to tell too many people about this, Emily, is the New York City Media Boat. So if you have a group and you can, get 6 to 8 people together, you can rent one of those fast inflatable boats, and they will take you all around both rivers, seeing all the sites, get right up against the Statue of Liberty, and make the most of your time here in New York in a 1-hour tour. It's magical. It's a little expensive, but it's fabulous. I'd tell people take advantage of the water while you're here because it's a magical resource that most folks don't pay enough attention to.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Real inside information there. And Michael, thing you're most excited about in the market and your secret or not so secret favorite New York place?
So I'll take New York first. I mean, having spent my whole long life in the shadows of New York and in New York, I'm going to sound like such a friggin' tourist, but I've never, ever had a bad day in Central Park, even in the 70s when I was terrified of walking through Central Park, and I'm that old. I think it's just such a marvel of urban planning. And I think there's so many different entry points to Central Park. And I think now it's as healthy as a natural ecosystem as it's ever been. And it's just a marvel of urban planning. And, the world's, one of the world's biggest cities, you have this massive couple 100-acre park where you could just, see ponds and like there's so much that I love about Central Park. I mean, again, I think B for me, again, I'm such a tourist, would just be the High Line. I think the High Line is, while it's right, Aaron, it's such a tour, it's over run by tourists now. But if you can time it at the right time of day or night, the High Line is just a marvel of again urban planning and what can be done. And I think it's being replicated. I think in London, Emily, model of it, or maybe the original planners that the group that brought it together. I think they might be over there advising. But I just think the High Line is just magnificent of what's been done. I think what's got me most excited right now is, for sure, there's a ton of serious headwinds in the marketplace, in the real estate marketplace, in the capital markets, and parts of venture, not metaprop. And there's a lot of pain in the marketplace, but I think the tailwinds are extraordinary in terms of AI and, like Aaron said, construction, climate. I've never been more optimistic about the future of innovation in the built environment as I am today, because I think the timing sucks in the sense that there's pain in the marketplace with the real estate companies particularly, but it's where now they're leaning in and going, okay, what is out there that can make me more efficient, help me make better decisions, help me reduce my carbon. And I think it's our community. So I'm more optimistic than I've ever been about our ecosystem. But Aaron hasn't answered that part, so I flip to him about the market.
I gotta say that I'm an office guy by background. Office in offices in plural, as we say in the UK, right? In Europe, right? Offices are really struggling relative to their peak in New York City. If New York City is known for one thing around the world, it's probably tall buildings. And a lot of those buildings are offices, and many of them are in a tougher position than they've been in, probably at least a couple of generations. And so this is a really interesting moment for folks who care about offices to come together and talk about, of course, sustainability and decarbonization, which is on the tip of everybody's tongue in the long run, but also in the short run as we go through the market cycles. What's happening in offices? What are the most forward-thinking folks doing? Adaptive reuse, for example, tenant amenities, right? How to get the warm bodies, how to activate underactivated office spaces with clever uses and tools and tricks. I think you'll get a lot of those answers from the best in the world when you come in for New York City Real Estate Tech Week and for CREtech. So I encourage everybody to come and join and have their voice heard and share as much as they're taking, because this is really, as Michael said, it's a community. You only get out what you put in generally. So showing up is half the battle. Give, share, raise your hand in one of the sessions at CREtech, right? Volunteer, go check out a construction site, right? Get on a boat, do what you need to do to make the most of this, because this is really a once a year opportunity to see the future and to help make sure that your offices are at the cutting edge as we get through this market cycle.
Thank you very much. Well, there you have it. Go to New York Real Estate Tech Week. Go to CREtech New York. Go and get lobster. Get on a boat. Go to Central Park.
Yes,
and and go to the High Line. And I must apologize, because I am one of the tourists that's always on the High Line, because it is brilliant. If I was going to choose my favorite place, that's where I'd choose. So it just shows that you're absolutely spot on. It's filled with tourists. Anyway, on that note, and that very self-deprecating note, it's time to wrap up. Thank you so much to both of you for joining me today. I agree with everything you said, apart from New York City being the best city in the world, which I know is terrible to say, but I think it's one of. But on this particular interview, perhaps we're prepared to say, you know what, it's the best. So thank you both for joining me. It's going to be an amazing week in November, and everyone should absolutely make sure it's in their diaries, and we'll all see you there.
Emily, you're not getting off that easy, but half of Aaron and myself, while you're on the CREtech team, you're on the proptech community, in the proptech community. And I know I speak for Aaron as well and his team. We are so blessed and delighted that you have joined our community full time. And while you've been one of the most recognized journalists covering real estate for a while, we're fortunate that you're going to be at this Real Estate Tech Week. You'll be at hopefully a couple Metaprop events. You'll be anchoring the stage at CREtech. And both Aaron and I are extremely fortunate that you're part of our ecosystem today. So thank you.
I'm trying Trying to give you hearts here.
Throw me off
There we go.
Well, that's thrown me off completely off my stride, and now I don't know what to do or what to say.
You're good.
And well, it's a joy. It's an absolute joy. It's been something that I've been focused on for a very long time, and it's such an interesting market, and the world needs people who think differently, and this is a place where people go to think differently. So, what more can I say?
Thanks, Emily. Thanks, Aaron.